Some birds don't just watch you, they remember you. And once they do, you can't leave. Not really. Elias Ward didn't believe in things like that. He worked with sound. Clean, measurable, explainable. If something made a noise, it had a source. That was his rule. And it had never failed him. Until the forest. It wasn't marked clearly on maps. Just a stretch of green between territories no one argued about anymore. Too dense. Too quiet. Too ignored. Locals avoided it. Not dramatically. Not with fear or stories. They just never went in. Elias noticed that first. Not what they said.
Elias didn't move. Not because he was afraid, but because something deeper than fear had already settled inside him. A quiet certainty that movement might be the wrong choice. The birds didn't make a sound. No wings, no calls. Just rows of silent shapes perched in the dark like they had always been there. Watching him, Elias forced himself to breathe. Slow, controlled. "It's just animals," he whispered. But the moment the words left his mouth, every bird shifted. Not much, just enough, as if reacting, not to the sound, but to the meaning. Elias felt it then, something he couldn't explain. He wasn't being observed, he was being processed. The thought came suddenly, fully formed, uninvited, and it didn't feel like his own. He stepped back, one step. The birds didn't move. 2 steps. Still nothing. Then, one of them dropped from its branch. No flutter, no hesitation. It landed on the ground in front of him. Too precisely. Elias held his breath. The bird took a single step forward. And then, it spoke. Not with its beak, but through the recorder still hanging from Elias's neck. A broken sound, layered, distorted. "You came back." Elias ripped the device off, stared at it. "No," his voice came out sharper than expected. "I've never been here before." Silence. Then the same voice again, clearer this time. "You always say that." Elias felt something crack. Not outside, inside. A gap between what he knew and what something else seemed to insist was true. "That's not possible," he said. But now, he wasn't sure who he was trying to convince. The bird tilted its head, closer, and for the first time, Elias saw its eyes clearly. They weren't reflecting light. They were holding it, like depth, like memory. And then, without warning, images flashed across his mind. A path, wet ground, the same trees. Him standing exactly where he was now, but older, or maybe just different. He staggered back. No, the forest remained still, watching, waiting. "You remember now," the voice said. Not from the recorder, from everywhere. Elias shook his head, hard. "No, that's not real." But the images didn't stop. They deepened. Him walking deeper into the forest. Him setting up equipment. Him not leaving. A final image, sharp, unavoidable. The same clearing, the same trees, and the branches full of birds, all watching, all silent, all waiting for someone, him, to stop moving. Elias gasped. The vision broke. The forest returned. But something had changed. The birds were closer now, not moving, not flying, just closer, closing in, and then one more voice, different, lower, older. You stayed last time. Elias slowly turned. There was another bird behind him, larger, darker, and unlike the others, it didn't tilt its head. It already knew. You always stay. Elias's pulse slammed in his ears. I'm leaving. The words felt desperate now, thin. The bird didn't react. You said that too. A pause. Then, quietly, almost gently, but you never make it out.
Elias didn't run. Not yet. Because something inside him was trying to understand this, to find logic, to force everything back into something explainable. There's a device, he said slowly. My recorder, it's glitching. The larger bird didn't react. You're hearing your own voice, Elias continued, more confidently now. Feedback, distortion, pattern recognition. Silence. Then, a soft sound. Not from the recorder, from the forest itself. A low, almost inaudible ripple, like something moving through layers of air. You always try that first. Elias's throat tightened. That explanation, the voice continued, machines, errors, anything that lets you keep going. Elias stepped back again. You're not real. This time, the response came instantly. Then why are you listening? That stopped him. Not the words. The way they were said. Not threatening, not mocking. Certain. Elias looked around. The forest hadn't changed, still dark, still dense, still watching. But now he noticed something else. There were no other sounds, no insects, no wind. Nothing but him and them. How long have I been here? He asked. No answer. Answer me. A pause. Then, you don't measure it correctly. Elias frowned. What does that mean? Another pause, longer this time, as if the forest itself was deciding something. Then, you measure time by leaving. Elias felt that again, that crack, that shift between what made sense and what something else was building instead. I arrived yesterday. No. I did. No. The word didn't sound aggressive. It sounded final. Elias turned sharply. Then how long? The birds didn't move, but something changed in the air. A pressure, like the moment before a storm breaks, but without wind, without sound. Enough, the voice said. Elias exhaled hard. That's not an answer. It is, the voice replied.
You just don't remember the question. Elias closed his eyes for a second. That was a mistake. Because the moment darkness settled, the images returned. Stronger now. Not flashes, sequences. Him walking deeper, again and again. Different paths, same forest. Him setting up equipment, speaking into the recorder, testing levels. Always the same routine, always the same place, and always the same ending. Stopping, standing still, listening. Elias opened his eyes, breathing heavier now. That's not real. But his voice lacked weight. Even he heard it. You said that before, too. Elias looked at the larger bird again. You keep saying that. Yes. Why? A pause. Then, because you forget. Elias shook his head. No, I don't. You do. The certainty again, unmoving, unbreakable. Elias stepped back once more and felt something behind him, not touching him, but close, too close. He turned. Another bird, then another, then more. Not flying, not landing, just there, as if they had always been standing exactly where he was about to step, blocking the way out. Elias's pulse spiked. Move. Nothing. Move. The birds didn't react, didn't even blink. You can't go that way, the voice said. Elias turned back sharply. Why not? A pause. Then, quietly, because that's where you left last time. Elias froze. What does that mean? No answer. What does that mean? The forest held its silence. Then, slowly, very slowly, the larger bird stepped forward. And for the first time, Elias noticed something he hadn't before. Its feathers weren't uniform. They were layered, not by color, by fragments. Thin, sharp, reflective, like pieces of something broken. And in those fragments, Elias saw movement. Not reflections, memories. Him, standing, waiting, watching. From the bird's perspective. Elias staggered back. No. The bird didn't stop. Do you see it now? The voice asked. Elias shook his head violently. No, that's not... But the words didn't finish. Because the images didn't stop. They aligned. Connected. formed something whole, a pattern. Him entering the forest, again, and again, and again, and every time he made it this far, and every time he stayed. Elias whispered, barely audible. Why? The answer came immediately. Because you listen. A pause. Then, closer now. And eventually, the bird leaned forward. You understand.
Elias didn't answer. He couldn't, because something about that last word stayed with him. Understand. Not survive. Not escape. Understand. He swallowed slowly. What happens if I don't? The forest stayed quiet for a moment. Then, you ask that every time. Elias closed his eyes briefly. A mistake. The images returned again, but different now. Not just fragments, details. Him arguing, shouting, trying to leave, running, and then stopping. Always stopping. Elias opened his eyes sharply. I didn't stay, he said, more to himself than anything else. I wouldn't stay. The larger bird tilted its head slightly. You didn't plan to. Elias's jaw tightened. Then what changed? A pause. The air felt heavier now, as if the forest itself was listening. Then, you heard it. Elias frowned. Heard what? No answer. What did I hear? The birds didn't move, didn't react, but the silence shifted again. That same pressure, that same feeling, something just beyond perception. Waiting. Listen, the voice said. Elias froze. At first, nothing. Then, very faint, a sound, soft, almost lost between breaths, like a voice, just out of reach. He leaned slightly, trying to catch it, and the moment he focused, it became clearer. A whisper, not from one direction, from all of them, layered, overlapping, not one voice, many. Elias. He stepped back. No, Elias. It was his name, his exact voice, repeated, distorted, but familiar, too familiar. Stop. The whisper didn't stop. It grew. Elias, come closer. His breathing quickened. That's not real. You almost understood. Elias covered his ears. Didn't help. The sound wasn't outside. It was inside the space between thoughts. Elias, just listen. His body leaned forward slightly. Not by choice, just a fraction. Enough to notice, enough to panic. No, he forced himself back, but the whisper adjusted. Closer now, clearer. You left too early. Elias froze. What? Last time. His heart slammed harder. I didn't. You were close. The voice almost sounded disappointed. You almost stayed. Elias shook his head hard. No, I'm leaving. He turned, tried to move past the birds, but they were already there, closer, blocking every direction. Not aggressively, just present, as if space itself had shifted around them. You can go. Elias stopped. What? You always can. Hope flickered. Small, fragile. Then move. The birds didn't. Move, he repeated. Silence. Then, "You're already going the wrong way." Elias turned slowly. "What does that mean?" A pause. Then, "You think leaving is forward." Elias felt something cold run through him. What else would it be? The answer came softer now. Returning. Elias didn't understand, but something in him reacted anyway. A memory, half formed, a direction, not out of the forest, deeper. He stepped back instinctively. No, but his body hesitated, just for a second, and that was enough. The whisper returned, stronger. This way. Elias looked toward the trees, and for a moment, just a moment, he thought he saw something. A path, familiar, waiting. He blinked. It was gone, but the feeling remained, pulling. "You remember," Elias whispered, barely audible. "I don't." The voice didn't argue, didn't insist, just waited, because it knew something Elias didn't. And slowly, very slowly, Elias realized his feet had already turned.
Elias didn't notice the movement at first. It was small, just a shift in weight, a slight turn of his body. But the moment he became aware of it, he froze. No, he forced his foot back, pressed it firmly into the ground. "I'm not going that way." Silence. No resistance, no reaction, which somehow felt worse, because it meant nothing was trying to stop him. It was waiting. Elias looked around again. The birds hadn't moved, still surrounding him, still watching. But now it felt different. Not like a barrier, like a frame. As if they weren't blocking him, they were containing something. "Why that direction?" he asked. No answer. "Why does it feel familiar?" A pause. Then, "Because it is." Elias clenched his jaw. "That's not possible. You've already walked it." His pulse quickened. "When?" Silence. Then, more than once, Elias exhaled sharply. "This is a trick." "No." "It has to be." "No." The certainty in that word didn't leave space for argument. Elias turned again, away from the path, toward what he thought was the way out, the direction he remembered coming from. "I'm leaving," he said, and this time he moved. One step, then another. The birds didn't follow, didn't stop him, didn't react at all. Elias kept walking, faster now, branches brushing against him, leaves shifting under his feet. Normal. Everything felt normal. Too normal. After a minute, he slowed. After two, he stopped, because something wasn't right. The forest hadn't changed, not slightly, not at all. The same trees, the same shadows, the same clearing. Elias turned slowly, and his chest tightened. The birds were still there, behind him, exactly where they had been, as if he had never left. No. He looked down, his footprints gone, the ground untouched, like he had never moved. Elias stepped forward again, more aggressively this time, pushing through branches, ignoring direction, just moving. But the feeling returned. That quiet shift, that subtle pull. Not physical, something else. Guiding, adjusting. Elias stopped again, turned, and there it was. The path. Clearer now, more defined, not forced, just waiting, like it had always been there. "You see it now." Elias shook his head. "I'm not going there." "You're already going." His breath caught. "What?" The voice didn't answer, because it didn't need to. Elias looked down. His body had shifted again, not fully, just enough. Enough to realize, every time he stopped thinking about it, he turned toward the path, slowly, unconsciously, like something inside him recognized it. No. He stepped back, forced his body away, but it took effort now. Real effort, like pushing against something invisible. "You're making it harder," the voice said. Elias looked up sharply. "Harder for what?" A pause. Then, "For yourself." Elias laughed, short, unstable. "That doesn't even make sense." "It will." The path seemed closer now, even though he hadn't moved. Or maybe he had. Small steps, unnoticed, unremembered. Elias's chest tightened. How far does it go? No answer. Where does it lead? Silence again. Then, quietly, back. Elias felt something break in his focus. Back where? A pause. Longer this time. Then,
Elias didn't want to ask the next question, but it came anyway. What happens when I get there? Silence. Not empty. Waiting. Then, you stop asking. Elias exhaled slowly. That's not an answer. It is. The path seemed closer now. Not by distance, by certainty. It no longer looked like something hidden. It looked familiar, recognizable, as if he had already walked it enough times to stop questioning it. Elias shook his head. No. He took a step back, then another. But the effort felt heavier now, like his body resisted leaving more than it resisted staying. That's not normal, he muttered. No, the voice agreed. That stopped him. You agree with me? Yes. A pause. Then, it stopped being normal a long time ago. Elias looked around again. The forest hadn't changed, but something in him had. The panic was fading, not disappearing, but shifting into something else. Focus, curiosity, understanding. And that scared him more than anything. No, he said again, more firmly this time. I'm not doing this. You already are. Elias clenched his fists. Stop saying that. Why? Because it's not true. The pause that followed felt different, heavier, as if something was considering him, evaluating. Then, look at your hands. Elias hesitated. Then, slowly, he did. His fingers trembled slightly, not from fear, from tension. He turned them, examined them. Nothing unusual, just dirt, small scratches, then something else. A faint line across his palm, too straight, too clean, like a cut, but not fresh, not recent, old. He frowned. I don't remember this. Yes, the word came immediately, too quickly. You don't remember most of it. Elias felt that crack again, wider now, deeper. What do you mean most? No answer. Instead, the forest shifted. Not visibly, but something changed. The light, slightly darker. The shadows, slightly deeper. And the path, clearer than before. No longer subtle, no longer hidden, defined. Elias stared at it. I didn't see that earlier. You weren't ready to. His breathing slowed. Not by choice, by something else. Something aligning. No, he whispered. But the word lacked strength now, because part of him, a small part, recognized it. The direction, the shape, even the way the ground dipped slightly, like he had stepped there before, more than once. You're remembering. Elias shook his head. No, I'm imagining. You said that too. The repetition hit differently this time. Not frustrating, familiar, like hearing a line you've heard before, but don't know where from. Elias took a step forward, just one, without thinking. He stopped immediately. No, but it was too late, because the moment his foot touched the path, something clicked. Not outside, inside. A memory, not visual, physical. The feeling of walking this exact step, of knowing what comes next. Elias inhaled sharply.
What was that? No answer. You felt it. That's not memory. It is. Elias looked ahead. The path stretched deeper into the forest. Not threatening, not dark, just certain, like a sentence already written, waiting to be read again. I can still leave. Yes. The answer was immediate, simple, calm. That almost made it worse. Elias narrowed his eyes. Then why does it feel like I can't? A pause. Then, quietly, because leaving isn't what you're trying to do. Elias frowned. Then what am I doing? The answer came softer now. Closer. Finishing.